The ice retreated, leaving behind a restless earth. Glaciers melted into rivers, carving valleys and filling lowlands with lakes that glittered like mirrors. Forests pressed northward, reclaiming ground once ruled by tundra. Herds of mammoth and reindeer drifted away, replaced by red deer, wild boar, and smaller prey hiding in thick undergrowth. Familiar hunting grounds vanished into marsh and shadow. Families stood at a crossroads, cling to old ways and starve, or adapt to the unknown. Thus began the Mesolithic, a bridge between survival and transformation. Scattered across forests and riverbanks, small bands of hunter-gatherers struggle to endure. Their shelters are fragile branches, stones, and hides stitched against the wind. Fire offers warmth, but it also burns precious fuel. Each day is a gamble. Sharpened flint scrapes bone. Arrows strike deer. Nets drag fish from restless waters. Yet hunger lingers. Children cry through lean nights, and elders recall when mammoths once roamed open plains. Those herds are gone, replaced by scattered game and harder hunts. The old Paleolithic rhythm fades, leaving families exposed, caught between memory and the need to reinvent survival. The climate turns restless. Summers linger longer than memory recalls, while sudden winters strike with bitter force. Rivers swell, twist, and reshape the land. Hunters can no longer rely solely on deer or boar. Now they gather berries, roots, nuts, and seeds, chasing whatever nature offers. Questions stir in quiet moments. Why does grain rise again where it once grew? Why do some plants vanish, never to return? Women who scatter seeds near campfires notice fragile green shoots emerge. What begins as instinct becomes insight. Humanity is no longer just taking from the earth, it is learning to guide it. The hunt no longer carries the same certainty it once did. Humanity stands at a threshold, staring across a fragile bridge into the unknown. Fire still warms the night, stone still sharpens the hand, and bone still serves as tool, but something deeper begins to stir. Curiosity replaces habit. Adaptation takes form in small, scattered experiments. Without naming it, these groups sketch the first outlines of the Mesolithic. It is not one invention that defines them, but a shift of thought. Survival may be shaped, not just endured. From this fragile spark, humanity readies itself for transformation. At dawn, silence drapes the forest like a veil. Shadows shift, and hunters crouch low among the trees, boughs drawn tight with sinew. Their ancestors once charged with spears, muscles straining against beasts. But these hunters fight with patience, not brute force. Microlith's tiny stone blades glitter at arrow tips, waiting to strike with precision. The forest is no longer just backdrop. It is weapon, ally, and shield. Every rustle, every ripple in the river is a clue. The hunt is no longer endless pursuit across frozen plains. It is strategy, calculation, and control, humanity's first true step toward mastering the wild. The Mesolithic toolkit marks a quiet revolution. Bows bend and release with power, sending arrows tipped with flint into the distance, striking prey once unreachable. From woven plant fibers, nets spread wide, trapping schools of fish in a single sweep. Bone harpoons plunge deep into rivers, their barbed edges clinging fast to life below the surface. Dugout canoes, carved patiently from tree trunks, glide across lakes and currents, expanding human reach far beyond the shoreline. These tools shift the balance. One catch can feed dozens. One strike can save days of struggle. Each creation reflects not just survival, but imagination, proof that humanity's greatest weapon is not muscle, but the mind shaping the hunt. Survival is no longer tied to a single path. In the Mesolithic world, people bend their lives to match the landscapes around them. In shadowed forests, hunters move with silence, reading the faintest sign of deer among leaves and broken twigs. Along riverbanks, they weave traps to catch salmon on their endless migrations, or glide in canoes, poised to strike at water birds with swift precision. On rocky coasts, families gather shellfish, spear fish in tidal pools, and carve out life from the rhythm of the sea. Each place demands its own wisdom, and in learning them all, humanity becomes sharper, more resilient. No longer chained to the herds of old, they spread, they thrive, they endure. Survival is no longer just a chase, it is a measured, calculated dance with the world itself. The bow changes more than the hunt, it reshapes the bond between humans and the wild. Birds that once scattered out of reach, fish that darted too quickly beneath the surface, now fall within grasp. With each arrow and each net cast, survival grows steadier. Families no longer wake every dawn in fear of hunger. This stability gives rise to something rare: time. Time to sharpen tools not just for necessity, but for precision. Time to carve bone into ornaments, to etch meaning into stone, to scatter seeds near campsites and watch green life return. The forest and river provide, and imagination begins to stir. The chase is no longer everything. For the first time, humanity looks past survival itself and dreams of shaping the future. In the hush of river valleys, a new awareness stirs. Gatherers, returning to familiar camps, notice that barley, wheat, and peas rise again in the same places, year after year. What was once chance now becomes observation. Seeds dropped in the dirt seem to return as gifts from the earth. Curiosity soon follows. Women scatter kernels near their shelters, guard small patches from animals, and months later find tender shoots pushing skyward. It is not yet farming, but it is something more than gathering. The ground itself becomes an ally, offering a promise beyond the chase. For people who lived by the hunt alone, this quiet spark is astonishing, the first whisper of agriculture, the dawn of a new way of life. The night is restless. Beyond the circle of firelight, shadows stir and eyes gleam in the dark wolves, drawn by the smell of roasted meat. At first they are enemies, chased away with stones and shouts. Yet some linger, watching, waiting. The bravest step closer, not with snarls, but with hunger and curiosity. In this fragile space between fear and trust, a new relationship begins. The fiercest wolves fade back into the wild, but the gentler ones remain, slowly finding a place beside humans. Soon they guard the camp, warn of approaching danger, and lend their strength in the hunt. What began as chance becomes companionship. Here, by the fire, loyalty is born, a bond that will outlast empires. The rhythm of life begins to change. No longer does every sunrise demand a desperate chase across endless plains. The hunters still return with deer, boar, and fish, but at the edge of the camp, tender shoots push through the soil seeds carefully placed by human hands. Gathering is no longer just chance. It is the first step toward control. Families now draw strength from many sources. Meat from the hunt, fish from the rivers, berries from the forest, and grains from these fragile patches of earth. Hunger softens its grip, and with stability comes time to carve sharper tools, to weave nets for the sea, to teach the young what once was only learned in panic. Here, between the wild chase and the quiet garden, humanity begins to imagine tomorrow. The Mesolithic is neither the old world nor the new. It is the fragile bridge between them. Hunters still string their bows, drawing life from the forests and rivers. But now, in the same hands, seeds are held with equal care. One promises meat today, the other whispers of bread tomorrow. This balance defines the age. The pursuit of herds has not vanished, yet it no longer stands alone. By pressing seeds into the soil, by guarding them against birds and beasts, people begin to shape the land itself. What was once chance becomes choice. The shift is subtle, almost invisible, yet it carries a power greater than the bowstring's snap. For in the union of hunter and planter, the foundations of civilization quietly take root. Along riverbanks and coastlines, the first signs of permanence begin to rise. Families gather reeds, wood, and stone, shaping huts that stand against the wind. Smoke curls into the sky, not from passing camps, but from hearths that burn night after night. Around the flames, food is cooked, children laugh, and stories echo into the darkness. Unlike their wandering ancestors, these people linger. A hut is more than a shelter, it is a claim, a marker of belonging. Here by the water, fish are plentiful, forests are generous, and the earth itself provides enough to stay. With each season spent in place, something extraordinary takes root. The earliest outlines of community, the fragile beginning of villages, yet to come dot as the first huts rise and families settle by rivers. Something stirs beyond survival. The old language of cave walls begins to fade, replaced by carvings etched into bone, wood, and stone marks that carry stories without words. Around necks and wrists, shells, beads, and animal teeth shine in the firelight. Each piece a sign of belonging, of status, of memory. Ritual objects appear, shaped by hands that seek meaning in the unseen rhythms of nature. Figures dance before the flames, celebrating hunts, seasons, or spirits they cannot name but deeply feel. These creations are more than decoration, they are declarations. In art, in ritual, in ornament, the Mesolithic people carve a new truth. Survival is not enough. Humanity must also remember, express, and believe. Beneath the soil of early settlements, a quiet transformation takes place. Death, once met with hurried abandon, becomes a moment of ritual. Graves are dug with care, and into them go more than bodies' tools, ornaments, shells, and beads, each a token of love and belief. A hunter rests with his bow, a mother with treasures gathered from far-off shores, a child with beads that shimmer like tiny stars. These burials speak of memory and compassion, of a people who see value beyond the fleeting breath of life. By honoring the dead, they bind the living together in shared remembrance. Each ceremony deepens identity, weaving generations into a single thread. For the first time, humanity's story stretches beyond the moment, reaching into both past and future along fertile riversides. Small clusters of huts grow into villages. Smoke curls above hearths where families gather, trading not only food but stories that carry wisdom. The hunt remains, yet it now shares space with fishing nets, baskets filled with berries, and rows of sprouting grain pressed into rich soil. Children watch, absorb, and imitate, learning to cast spears, shape flint blades, and gently press seeds into earth. Knowledge becomes the treasure that binds these people, passed hand to hand, generation to generation. Cooperation becomes survival itself. Roles are divided, conflicts softened by dialogue, trust woven into daily life. Fragile though they are, these villages spark a revolution. Humanity begins to step out of solitude, testing the first true form of society. The wild forests that once rang with the calls of hunters now carry new rhythms. The steady scrape of stone sickles, the soft press of seeds into waiting soil. What began as scattered trials in the Mesolithic grows into deliberate labor. Families return to the same fertile clearings, season after season, cutting brush, loosening earth, and guarding tender shoots from hungry animals. In the fertile crescent, stands of wild barley and wheat swell into fields shaped by human hands. Across Europe, peas and lentils sprout near the edges of clustered huts. Curiosity gives way to commitment, and commitment binds people to the land. The chase for food no longer rules every moment. Humanity begins to shape nature itself, and with it, life turns toward permanence. Beside the first fields, another transformation unfolds. Goats and sheep, once shadows on distant hills, now linger within the edges of camp. Early cattle, no longer just prey, are coaxed into the fold. What was once taken in a single desperate chase becomes a steady gift: milk to drink, wool to weave, meat to sustain, and strength to pull. This bond is practical, yet it reshapes daily life. No longer chasing migrating herds, people guide them, guard them, and live by their rhythms. At the campfire, hunters sit with herders, united by shared survival. With every hoofprint near the hearth, humanity tightens its hold on the land. Domestication has begun, a quiet revolution that will echo through every civilization to come. From the first harvests comes something extraordinary: excess. Granaries filled with grain, pens alive with livestock, baskets heavy with produce. For the first time, survival is not measured only by today's meal, but by tomorrow's stores. This surplus ripples outward. Villages swell as families multiply. Farmers rise before dawn, while others fashion stone sickles, weave baskets, or guard stores of food. Trade awakens along rivers and trails, carrying flint, shells, and stories between far-flung groups. Yet with plenty comes tension. Neighbors quarrel over fertile ground. Sickness spreads where people live close together. Wealth begins to divide households. Still, these settlements endure. Humanity has stepped across a threshold. No longer ruled by the wild, people shape their destiny with seed, soil, and shared labor, and society itself is born. The transformation gathers speed. Across fertile valleys, the rhythm of stone sickles cutting grain replaces the desperate chase of migrating herds. The harvest is gathered, ground upon heavy stones into flour, then stored in clay pots, sealed against time itself. What once was fragile and temporary huts of reeds and brush now hardens into lasting villages, with foundations of stone and walls meant to endure the passing years. The Mesolithic world begins to fade. Though its spirit lingers in memory, the old hunters still carry their bows. Yet the bow is no longer master of survival. It stands beside the plow, which digs deeper than any arrow could, pulling sustenance from the earth in a way no chase ever could. Stability triumphs over uncertainty, and with stability comes permanence. Families no longer drift with the seasons. They build, plant, and plan for generations yet unborn. Fires that once guarded against the night now blaze inside permanent homes. Knowledge accumulates, not in scattered bands, but in growing communities that stretch from riverbanks to rising plains. The Mesolithic ends not with collapse, but with creation. From the soil rises a new chapter, farmers shaping fields, builders raising walls, dreamers imagining a world beyond survival. The age of the Neolithic dawns, and with it, the long march towards civilization truly begins. The Mesolithic was more than a pause between ages. It was the bridge that carried humanity from wilderness to civilization. Here, hunters became gatherers of knowledge, shaping stone into sickles, taming fire into hearths, and coaxing animals into partnership. It was an age of trial and resilience, where shifting climates tested human will, yet also revealed new possibilities. Though brief in the grand span of time, its impact was endless. Without this bridge, there would be no fertile fields, no cities, no empires. The Mesolithic taught humanity to dream beyond survival, and from that dream, history itself took root.